Today's video is going to be all about bathroom exhaust fans. Does your bathroom fan sound like this? Or this? How about this? So really the only two issues you come across with bathroom exhaust fans is either one, they're not working at all, or two, they're super noisy. Either way, you have to open up the case and get inside to see what you're working with. So let's get started. Alright, so now comes the fun part. We're going to get ourselves as close as we can to the bathroom vent with a step ladder or ladder, and we're going to go ahead and remove this cover. So most of the time you're going to be dealing with a brand called Broan. I would say 99% of the time that I have worked on a bathroom exhaust fan, it's a Broan. And really, I think they've just cornered the market when it comes to it. But so we're going to need to remove this cover so we can get to the inside of the exhaust fan. So you've got a couple different types of bathroom exhaust fans, and thankfully I've got two in my bathroom so I can show you both kinds. This one has an integrated light. The other one I'm going to show you doesn't have an integrated light, it's just the fan. But for the ones that have the integrated light, you're going to need to remove the cover for the light, and that requires, there's some little push pins on the side. You just push in one side and then the other side falls out just like that, and as you can see, a bunch of nasty bugs in there, so I'm going to go ahead and clean that out real quick before we go any further. Now's also a great time to replace your light bulb if you need to. This one's still working great, so I'm going to leave it. Oh my gosh, it's still freaking hot, so I'm going to wait a second. Depending on the model, you may or may not have to remove your light bulb. This particular one, I will have to remove it. So let's go ahead and remove this light bulb, and then we can get to the screw that's holding everything together. So most of the time, all you're going to need is a Phillips head or a flathead bit. For some reason, this one's actually a little bit different than normal. It's actually got a nut holding the inside together. So let me see if I can zoom in here so I can show you what we're looking at. So as you can see, this is the bathroom exhaust fan with the cover opened up. Right here is a little nut that's on a stud, and that's holding this entire piece in. So sometimes it's a screw, and you can just use a Phillips head or a flathead bit, but this one is actually a nut. So I'm going to use this screwdriver that has an integrated nut driver on it. So we're going to remove that nut. I like to loosen it up a little bit and then use my fingers to completely get it off. That way I can use my hand to still hold the rest of the assembly up so it doesn't fall. There's generally a bunch of dust and gook that'll fall out, so you want to be careful and close your eyes. Wear some safety glasses if you feel that's necessary. Alright, so now that this is loose, the whole thing's going to drop down. And usually, yep, there's a plug. So up inside here, kind of having a hard time seeing it. Alright, so I'm actually going to grab the camera and bring you up here with me. Alright, so that's a little better. So over here on the left, there's a white plug that attaches to the assembly here. And then there's the blue wires that go into the plug. That's actually for the fan motor. So we're going to need to unplug both of those. When you unplug the left plug, that's going to let the light assembly come out. And then the blue wires in that black plug, that's going to allow you to remove the bathroom exhaust fan motor. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and unplug both of these pieces. We're going to unplug the light assembly. Just kind of got to wiggle that plug back and forth so this whole thing comes off together. Go ahead and set that down, and we're going to go ahead and unplug the other plug that is for the fan. Now at this stage you can usually tell whether you just have a noisy fan that needs cleaned or if you need a new motor. You can actually reach up in here with your finger and kind of spin the blades of that fan, and if it's hard to spin and it's making little creaky noises, you probably just need to go ahead and replace your bathroom fan motor. If it still spins nice and freely and doesn't really make much noise, you probably just need to blow the whole thing out and get all the dust off, and you should be good to go. I'm going to go ahead and remove this case so you can actually see the fan motor and the blades and everything together as one assembly, and we'll go ahead and clean this thing up, and I'll also show you how to replace the fan motor if you need to. So getting the fan motor assembly out is a pretty similar process as getting the light assembly out. There's generally one screw somewhere up in here that you need to remove to pull out. If not, there's usually some metal tabs bent into holes, and you just need to get a flathead screwdriver in there and bend those out. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Now this particular fan motor assembly does not have any screws holding it in. It's actually just some metal tabs right here and right here that need to be bent out a little bit with a flathead screwdriver, and this whole thing will drop down. If you do, the screw is going to be like right here or like right over here, and it's just a little tiny Phillips head screw that you release, and then the whole thing drops out. If you do just have the tabs, all you got to do is get a flathead screwdriver and push it up in between the two pieces, or sometimes you can even just flex the metal and the whole thing will come out. Just like that. So this particular bathroom vent is a little more challenging to get to. I actually had to put a ladder in the shower, and now I'm holding the camera by hand. But so this does not have a light. This is just a cover, and so all you got to do is just pull it away from the fan. And as you can see in there, you get those little wires holding it together. Pieces of metal, spring metal, whatever you want to call it. So you just pinch them together, and there's a little slot that they slide in, and it comes right out. Super easy, not challenging at all. I'm going to show you how these plates or these fan covers actually go together. So you can kind of get an idea when you are removing it or putting it back, you can kind of see what you're working with. It's much easier to see when it's actually on the bench. So these slits right here are actually where these spring clips go. So you squeeze the spring clip together and they slide in there, and that's what holds it in. Same thing on this side. Squeeze, push it in there, and that's actually what holds the fan cover on. Kind of gives you an idea of what you're working with when you're trying to put it back together. There you go. Same kind of thing, looks very similar to the other one. There's just no light fixture. So inside this one, can't really see. Yeah, it does not look like this one has a screw holding it in either. So all we need to do is remove that other clip, pull the cover off, and then go ahead and remove the assembly. All right, so like I said, all you're gonna do is squeeze in that little spring clip. Your cover's gonna come off. There we go. Easy. All right, first things first, let's get these things cleaned up a little bit. So it looks like both of these are going to require a little bit more deep cleaning with a rag and some solvent or some soap, but let's go ahead and start disassembling. So what's pretty cool here is I actually have both types of the way that these fan motors are mounted. Both of these are exactly the same motors. They're both 50 CFM, which are the replacement ones that the hardware store sells, but they're each mounted a little bit different. So let me go ahead and get a replacement motor and I'll show you what I'm talking about. All right, so let's start with the most common style. This is just the basic style mounting. So, and I don't think it requires much disassembly out of the box besides just pulling it out, putting the new one in, and tightening it back up, and you should be good to go. So let's go ahead and open up this replacement motor. Like I said, these are found at your local hardware store. You can order them online, Amazon, whatever. Let's get this thing pulled apart. It comes with instructions, a fan motor, and new fan blades. And generally, just use both of these. There's no sense in reusing an old fan blade. They're usually nasty and gross, and that way you don't have to clean them. So let's go ahead and disassemble this thing. So first thing, you're going to need to get this fan blade off. All you got to do is grab it and pull it off. It just slides on to this little post here. So I'm kind of testing how this thing spins compared to a new one. It's really not that bad. I think this thing is on its way out. It was kind of noisy, but based on the amount of gunk built up on here, this thing may have just been out of balance. But since I've already pulled it completely apart, I'm just going to go ahead and disassemble everything and put it back together. So what we're going to do here is get our nut driver out. And we're going to loosen these. Nope, wrong size. Loosen these nuts up here. take these completely off, and the whole assembly is going to drop out the bottom here. Now, you want to take pictures of all this as you're disassembling it. That way you can remember how it goes back together. And this is especially important because in this application, we are going to have to disassemble the new motor and flip everything around the opposite way. That way it fits in the new application. So let's go ahead and remove these nuts here. Pull that off. Alright, so here's our old fan motor versus our new fan motor. And as you can see, it's backwards. So we're going to need to pull these screws out and put them around the other way. And unfortunately, it does look like these are Torx bits. So hopefully you have some Torx bits on hand. Yep, thankfully I've got the right size here. So when you do remove these screws, you want to make sure and be very careful that the whole thing doesn't come apart in your hands. So I usually remove one at a time. Hoping you can see this in the camera, what I'm doing here. Got quite the shadow. See if that's better. There you go. So pull it out like that. Now I'm going to put it back through this way. So it's threaded on this post and not threaded on this post. So like I said, you do have to be careful that it doesn't come apart in your hand. So you're going to thread it all the way through like this. Just snug it up a little bit, and when you put these nuts back on, that's going to hold the whole assembly back together. So you see how that's loose like that? So that whole motor could fall apart if you're not careful. So you definitely want to keep one hand holding the whole thing tight together. So let's remove this screw. It's good and tight, still holding it together. Now we're going to take our plate. Actually, we're going to set this down and clean our plate real quick. Alright, plate cleaned off. Let's go ahead and put this back together here. So again, you want to make sure you're holding the motor together. And set that through like that. Now we're going to put our nuts back on. And then we'll get our nut driver, tighten the nuts down. You don't have to crazy crank this thing down, just a little bit. Even on each side. Now, we'll put our new blades on. Again, you want to make sure it's facing this direction just like this. Press the new blade on. You don't want to press out here because you can break these blades, but you want to press on the inside here, but you don't want to use your whole hand like that because you can stab yourself. It's just some gentle pressure and that thing will push down. Just where that little bit is poking out is perfect. Now we're going to replace our other style, and hopefully we won't have to disassemble the whole motor this time, if we're lucky. You don't always have to disassemble the motor. Sometimes they go in exactly the same, but sometimes you've got to do a little extra work. So let's get the box and everything out the way. Alright, so first step, we're going to remove these two nuts here with our nut driver. Again, we'll make sure and take pictures of everything. That way you can reassemble everything perfect. Actually, first step, remove the fan blades. Forgot that. There we go. Alright, so looks like we are going to be in a great position to not have to disassemble anything, except for removing these so the old motor can come out and the new motor goes back in. It's the exact same application. So remove these nuts, and then pull the frame away. Make sure you don't drop your nuts. So, set this right here. So here's your old motor, and here's your new motor. As you can see, exactly the same. So let's go ahead and put it back in the same way the old one was. I'll put our old nuts back on. Like I said, you don't have to go crazy tight. Just snugging them up. Well, maybe a little bit past snug. Just like that. Then we'll take our new fan blades and press it on the same way we did the other one. Alright, now it's time to go reassemble everything inside the bathroom. Also, a side note, they do sell replacement covers for the bathroom exhaust fans. For instance, if you accidentally crack this trying to remove it, or if you cracked your pins out, you can get a replacement for this. Alright, now it's time for reassembly, and all you really have to do is put everything back together backwards, and you should be good to go. So what you're going to do is line up where the plug goes to this hole, and then slide everything back in. One thing you definitely want to do is make sure that the bathroom fan works before you completely put it all back together. So go ahead and plug it in, run down, turn your switch on, make sure everything turns on, and then put your cover back on. Otherwise you'll have to pull everything back apart. And it's much easier to do one side at a time. So go ahead and do the far side, and then the side closest to you. And I can't even see where these holes are, so I'm kind of working blind here. Here we go. Get this pushed in, and now go to the center, slide it in, get everything even. If you care, there is a brand right here. Make sure you get it orientated. Make sure the orientation is how you like, but otherwise just slap that thing up there and you should be good to go. All right, let's get this one put in. So pretty much the same situation. Make sure you turn the frame in the same direction where the hole here matches up where your plugs are. We're gonna slide it in, remembering where your clips are. Just like that. Now, plug our fan in, reach down and give it a test. Oh, it sounds like we are good to go. Let's go ahead and get our light assembly put back together. Alright, let's get our light assembly plugged in here. Just like that. And now we're going to push it up where it goes over that post. And now we're going to take our nut that we saved Put that back on right there. Now we're going to get our screwdriver and tighten that nut. Again, not crazy tight. All you're doing is just holding it up there. When you're doing this, you also want to make sure that you've got your cover square. Whoever cut the hole for this one cut it a little bit big, so this one's important to make sure and get it centered correctly. Alright, now we'll put our light bulb back in. Before we put our light cover on, we'll test it. Nope, wrong one. There we go. Light works great. Let's go ahead and get our cover back on. Test our fan again. Boom, we are good to go. Well, that's gonna be it for this video. Hopefully these simple steps helped you get your bathroom fan back to properly operating. If you do have any questions about the process, let me know down in the comments and I'll be sure to help you out. Hit that subscribe button if you'd like to see more home repair how-to videos. I do all kinds on my channel. But that's gonna be it for me today. Hope you have a wonderful day and I'll see you in the next video.